the PICS webinar on creating a safer supply chain in 2013. My name is Catherine Gutierrez, and I will be your host for the presentation. Our presenter will be Joe Ballard. Joe comes to us with several years of experience in both the safety and sustainability fields as they relate to the supply chain. What we will cover today is how to help you create a safer supply chain. And what we'll do first is just briefly cover with you how to ask questions. We invite you to ask questions throughout the presentation. We will take time at the end of the presentation. Joe will turn the time back over to me at that time to ask the questions, and he will answer those for you. So to ask a question, simply open the chat panel. In the Send To drop-down list, select the host, enter your message in the chat box, and then if you have a Windows system, simply click Send. If you have a Mac system, click Enter. And again, all questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. I'd like to turn the time over now to our presenter, Joe Ballard, to get started on helping you to create a safer supply chain in 2013.
Thank you, Catherine. My name is Joe Ballard, located here with PICS. I'm going to talk to you today about creating a safer supply chain, more importantly, with the new year that's upon us, looking to kind of streamline our processes and make sure we have a supply chain in place that's going to best suit our needs, more importantly for the suppliers that we're bringing on, making sure that there's buy-in from all different aspects of the supply chain. And we'll go along, we'll go through some slides, and as Catherine mentioned, go ahead and ask those questions on the chat box there. So just going over the items that we're going to cover today, first of which is what we're facing, bringing on suppliers, vendors, contractors, subcontractors, whoever it is. So suppliers really kind of lends its name to a lot of different entities of who we bring on site or who we're actually working with within your organizations. What's involved? What's your current process? Kind of do a lot of self-reflecting while we're going through this and take a look and ask those questions of your own organization so that you can take a look and see what's working for you, where you need a little bit of help. Some of the items that stand in our way, what are those obstacles? What are those challenges or those pitfalls and the stumbling blocks that we come across within our supply chains? We'll talk about a few steps to create that safer supply chain and coming up with a solution, how we can avoid those pitfalls and stumbling blocks and obstacles. So just quickly at a glance, when we talk about our supplier and supplier safety and bolstering up our supply chains to become more of a safety program for us, just some quick statistics for you. On average, 13 workers lose their lives every day going to work. Last year, the total of 4,609 workers died from work-related injuries and accidents and incidences. Which means, kind of in calculating for every 100,000, every full-time worker in the U.S., we lose about 3.5% due to fatal injuries. Obviously, these statistics are what kind of shakes us and wakes us up sometimes to notify and let us know that we need to make safety a priority, make that something that's very, very integrated into our supply chain as well. How do we create a safer supply chain here? So we've got a long way to go, helping these so that we have zero fatalities and so that we can actually have everybody go home safely at the end of a workday. So creating this safe supply chain for your organization. Let's talk about a few of the ways that we're doing it now. Monitoring safety. So what goes on? What goes into this? Monitoring safety performance. How do we do this? What's your current process? Are we gathering this information, tracking the safety information as well? What does that mean? What is the tracking of this information? Is that safety criteria, OSHA logs, recordable incident rates, XMOD, EMR rates, citations? Are we reviewing the safety programs, which is safety manuals, training documents, evaluations of your suppliers, which can even mean field audits, and reviewing every single one of those suppliers that's on site doing work for you? And if for some reason that one of your suppliers, vendors, contractors is deficient, how do we help them fill in those gaps? How do we help them not just eliminate or disqualify them for working from you, but actually help them achieve more of a safety culture within their organization helping them achieve the, I guess, compliance that you're looking to work with them with. So let's talk about those stumbling blocks. Let's talk about what are some of those obstacles. And all too often, we do let things slide. We work with companies that we work for the past 15, 20 years, and we do hear that often. Hey, I've been working with John for the past 15 years. I know him. He's a safe guy. He's done great work for us. I don't think anything's going to happen. He just knows our process. He knows how we actually run the business here. So I feel confident nothing bad's going to happen. That's definitely not enough. Knowing that and having that relationship, sure, it's great with John and his company, but taking a look and kind of kicking the tires with his safety programs, with reviewing exactly his safety culture for his organization is where we need to really keep our focus. It's not just knowing. It's more importantly, we want to trust our suppliers, but more importantly, we want to verify our suppliers. So trust and verify. You'll hear me talk about that a little bit later on. And obviously, doesn't protect our workers, and it definitely does not prevent lawsuits, just knowing that John's a good guy and he's worked for us for 15 years. So some of these obstacles, some of these stumbling blocks kind of lead us to how we can improve our supply chains. And I want to have you ask yourself some questions as well and review as we're going through how we improve our supply chains. And here's just a couple suggestions of what can help out with improving these supply chains. So one of which I like, throw away those spreadsheets. Throw away those things that are put away and socked away in those filing cabinets. Let's lead more to an online process. I believe that it creates a more streamlined, more easy to use access, obviously more transparency and across the board within your organization, so that it's not just filed away and socked away in a filing cabinet or sitting on a spreadsheet in someone's drive or on top of their desk, but something that's actually going to lend more to moving forward. So spreadsheets are great, but let's move forward and create something online and put in that process for transparency across the board. Education. All departments within your link or within your supply chain link, they need to have a common understanding. So educate. Everyone within your organization should know of the criteria, the safety criteria. What's the end goal? What are you looking to accomplish within creating a safer supply chain? Establishing these benchmarks, metrics, safety standards, thresholds. So as soon as we understand how the performance compares to your competitors and to industries and to best in class, we establish those benchmarks. We take a look and see exactly what we want, what type of contractors, what type of suppliers we want on site, and making sure that they meet those compliance standards. And I like this, manage information rather than information management. We want to be on top of the ball. We want to make sure that the information that we're gathering and that we're taking a look at from our suppliers, that we're ahead of the curve and that it's not just piling up on our desk and we're just managing it as it comes in. We want to make sure that the information we're gathering is valuable and that it leads us to making that decision of who we want to do work with. Solutions can facilitate proper collection, identification, and easy access to allow for rapid decisions. Collecting information is not relevant as it only serves to meet the criteria and just kind of the enterprise solution. It's not a way to efficiently manage business. Collect the information that is more relevant and assigns and aligns with business objectives to ensure that information is easily accessible. So let's manage our information more than having it manage us. And then creating that process that works for your supply chain. Like I said earlier, identify what's going to work best for you and what's going to work best for your organization. Identify those key indicators, identify kind of your end goal and how you want this to work for you, and obviously fill in those gaps of where you find that your supply chain is lacking. Let's talk about these steps. So we have just a quick 5 steps of how we can create a safer supply chain for your organization. First of which, as I mentioned, establishing this criteria. Get your expectations, and more importantly, and have that communicated to your suppliers as well. have regular meetings, hold contractors, supplier, make them a safety priority. Evaluate your suppliers. Don't just gather the information. Don't just take a look at the spreadsheets and those the numbers that are being reported. Take a look at the objective criteria, which is, you know, those lagging indicators or those EMRs, recordable incident rates, any of the fatalities, even citations that have a contractor or suppliers received. And let's also take a look at the subjective stuff, evaluations of your contractors, work history, written performances, policies, and how this contractor, supplier has complied with safety in the past. Now, selecting your workforce. Evaluate the information that you're gathering. Determine your selection criteria. Take a look at all the facets of this contractor, the supplier, not just looking at the low cost, not just looking at, you know, these guys have done work for us in the past 15 years, but make a strong selection in who you're working with in selecting this workforce. In doing so, you can create that preferred vendors, you can strengthen those relationships, you can bolster up more of a safety culture within your organization. And then we've gathered this information, we've selected our workforce, now let's monitor this annually. This is where it takes some dedication, some elbow grease here, and someone that's actually going to be taking a look at this information, verifying it, and collecting this. So as this work is being completed, are we auditing it? And are we recording the safety evaluations, keeping them on file? Are we helping out in establishing the reevaluation every year? It's where we gather the information, verify the information, and then revisit that as well. So not good enough to just do it once, although that's a great step in the right direction. Let's move towards more of an annual check on this information, because we know that criteria changes, that regulations change as well year to year. One of our last steps here, creating that vendor database. So we've done everything. We've established our criteria, we've evaluated our contractors, selected our workforce, we're monitoring them annually. Now we have a pool of suppliers. Now we have those that meet our standards, meet our criteria. The best way to manage that is on a database. It's standardized, it's transparent, it's easy to use, easy access. You have different users that can utilize this. Share that database with all the necessary users so that they can log in, that they can review this information. It's not stuck in a filing cabinet somewhere. And then obviously the functionality is maximized when that consortium is being used and when it's being used to manage this data. So now I want to have you kind of ask the questions to yourself as we go through kind of the self-evaluation. I want you to review what your current supply chain is and how you're actually utilizing some of the keys that we talked about here, some of those 5 tips to create a safer supply chain. So first of which, how simple is your process right now? Are you allowing contractors, suppliers on site without verifying their compliance? Is it John's company because he's done work for you in the past 15 years? Is it a one-time event? Do you verify once and revisit it maybe when they've had an incident or an accident and say, wow, we should have been doing this every year? Or, hey, we've got an OSHA log, but it's from 1997 here. Is it effectively preventing incidents and, more importantly, improving performance, preventing those accidents and fatalities that happen that are on those OSHA logs? And is it, more importantly, moving towards a safety culture for this contractor or the supplier? And with this in place, does your process tell your suppliers, what does it tell you about the company? Are they serious about safety? Are they working towards a safety culture for me as a contractor supplier and for the company as a whole? So those are just some kind of the self-evaluations that you can ask yourself. Let's talk about some other challenges that are actually in the way of, and some of those stumbling blocks we talked about earlier. Kind of keep asking these questions to yourself as we're going over them. So gathering the supply chain data. How do we do this? How are we currently doing it from your suppliers? And are your suppliers, are they participating? Do you only have your top tier? Are maybe the top 10 folks that are working for you? Or is it every single one of your suppliers that are getting in? They all pose the same risk. They all have the same kind of different trades that they're performing, and they could have different fatalities and things like that that could happen. They all pose the same kind of risk to you. And are we getting the right information? Are you asking the right questions? Are you putting together a questionnaire that's asking redundancy questions or stuff that don't really, those questions that don't provide a lot of value for your company? How often is this updated? Is it done once? Is it done every 5 years, every 3 years? Is it done annually? Is it done every quarter? And then questionnaire bias, are we verifying that? Let's verify that that information is being uploaded, that information is accurate. So we talked about gathering information. Let's talk about how it's actually being used and utilized. Does everybody know exactly where this information is being held and kept and where they can access this information? Like I said, is it stuck in a filing cabinet, or do you have an online process right now that can actually lend to users to log in and review it, not just in the same office, but across the nation, across the world? Are they accessible? Can they log in? Can they review those? And more importantly, how does this process benefit the supplier? Sure, they're providing this information for you, but what are they getting out of it? Are they creating a safety culture? Are they, or are they just simply uploading this documentation just to meet compliance? And then compliance with that safety information, does it equal that reward? Does it equal that contract that's being associated to them? So we talked about gathering, we talked about how it's going to be used. Now let's talk about how do we verify this information. Let's talk about leading and lagging indicators. And obviously those lagging indicators here, the things that that can be gathered, kind of trailing information that the contractor or supplier can provide for us. Experience rating, EMR, XMOD ratings, LexisNexis, D&B, credit reporting, annual incident logs, those OSHA logs, citations, supporting documents that can be found. Those are the things that have happened in the past. Those are the things that your supplier has reported, and accidents that have happened, fingers that were cut off, whatever it is, those are those lagging indicators. And they definitely have a place in the business, and they definitely have a way to show us exactly how safe a contractor has been and how safe a supplier has been in the past. But we like to focus more on those leading indicators, things that are going to actually lend to a contractor to create that safety culture, create more of an awareness within their organization of how safe they can be and how they can avoid those fatalities and how they can avoid those incidences on their OSHA logs. So let's talk about the solutions. So the solution one that we'll talk about is gathering the supplier data. And I like to go over the need to know versus the nice to have. What are the salient points? What are those key indicators of how safe, and what are those questions that you're actually asking within the questionnaire or pre-qualification form that give you value? So it's not just gathering information that you're not going to use. We can eliminate those questions. More importantly, I want to see, and we want to see, that the value in the decision making. One of those questions that I see often on a questionnaire form is, does your upper management support safety within the organization? Well, of course they do. It's the redundant questions that we want to eliminate. We want to provide more information that's actually going to lend to the decision-making process, that's going to give you value in a questionnaire and value in a pre-qualification form. Questionnaires definitely shouldn't take more than 60 minutes to complete. Your vendors, suppliers, contractors have more important things to do than sit in front of a computer, because that creates a bottleneck, that creates a doom loop of information that they need to sit down and input this information. So solution, getting that questionnaire form under 60 minutes and helping them achieve that and complete that. And then updating that annually, verifying that information, making sure that it's meeting your standards, meeting your criteria, and creating more of a simplified process for you. So gathering the information, now utilizing supplier data. Centralize the information, as we mentioned earlier, a standardized process, a place that it can be tapped into from not just one office, but across the nation, across the globe, open to all different stakeholders, conditions of the award and facilitating ongoing comment and review, helping these suppliers to, if they are deficient, filling in those gaps, helping them actually utilize this information and create this and put that into play within their daily operations. Obviously, we've got the carrot versus stick information here. What's in it for the supplier? Sure, they're putting in this information and they're uploading their documentation, but what are they getting out of it? We'll talk a little bit about that. So one of the last solutions here is trusting but verifying. As I mentioned earlier, you've known John for 15 years and he's done the work for you, but let's verify this information. Those leading versus lagging indicators, again, you'll see the lagging indicators, things that we talked about a little bit earlier, accident statistics, citations, financial indicators, things that can be verified of past work performances. At PICS, we definitely like to focus more on the leading indicators, safety management systems, taking a look at the programs from individual contractor and supplier firms, reviewing those, tearing those apart, making sure that they meet compliance and standards, that they have everything in place that they need to have to do work for you and meet compliance for your organization. We can evaluate employee competencies, environmental practices, sustainability as well. Moving forward, how safe is this contractor going to be? So obviously, what's in it for the contractors? Qualification equals reward. Internal communication that you can share within your organization of how a system like this can work. Qualified suppliers are going to be the ones that are getting the business. Identify the process gatekeepers, who's going to be letting those contractors in. A clear process for exceptions, knowing exactly who's going to be in charge of this, who's going to champion this process. Ownership at the executive level for your company or organization. And then external communications. This is what the contractor will review, or the supplier will understand from this. So it's no longer the low bid that gets the award. It's now we create more of a level playing field for all the suppliers. They know the expectations. They are reasonable. There's transparency. They can review exactly what is needed and how they match up against that compliance threshold there. And then obviously, you want to create that relationship with your suppliers, and those top performers are going to be the ones that you work with as well. So leveraging the best practices, let's talk a little bit about this and how PICS can provide a solution, help manage your supply chains, and more importantly, create that safer supply chain for you. So don't reinvent the wheel. Come to us and we'll help out with verifying this information, gathering the information, working with you to build an account to manage your suppliers, manage your contractors, manage everyone that's working with you, your vendors as well. There's definitely a lot of good information on successful programs. We have a consortium base that is provided to your assets and to your kind of fingertips. You can utilize our information. Obviously, our industry with the consortium that we have and that the suppliers that are in our system, it's a shared information so that these best practices are shared within suppliers, within your contractors and vendors. And then for over 10 years, PICS has worked with organizations to manage suppliers and create these solutions for some of the most respected companies in the world that work with our organization. With them, they bring with their suppliers, bring with them their contractors, and we help them create a safety culture within their organization. We provide them with service, but more importantly, we provide the value behind that service as well. Just to show you a few of the consortium members that utilize the PICS system, you'll see kind of a few of our logos here from different organizations that are in the PICS system right now with their suppliers, with their vendors, their contractors. You'll see a lot of different companies in here, a lot of oil and gas, but as well all different ends of the spectrum, anywhere from L'Oreal makeup company to food and beverage, New Belgium brewery. All different types of organizations have come to PICS and have said we need a little bit of help managing our contractors, our suppliers, help us create an online system so that we can create this safer supply chain, create a more safety standard across the board for not just only our organization, but for all of our suppliers, our contractors, anyone that we're going to do business with. We'd like them to work with PICS to create that safety culture within their organization. And with that, our clients take us around the world. We have offices across the world in about 17 or so different offices. Our employees here at PICS speak 27 or so different languages to help facilitate any of the contractors across the globe and for our clients to answer any questions and, more importantly, provide that service within this information that we're gathering and verifying for you. All right. Just to recap the information that we've gone over with the solutions that we've provided for you, industry leaders, for your reference, custom design solutions for your specific needs. PICS is the global leader in verifying information, in tracking and managing contractor information for large organizations. More importantly, we help out with customized accounts and really helping you achieve exactly what you're looking for as far as that compliance goes, building an account that's more tailored to your process and more suited to exactly what you're looking to gather and capture from your suppliers. So, first of all, I appreciate everyone's time. I'm gonna hand it back over to Catherine. Catherine's going to be in charge of taking a look and see if there's any questions that were posed during our quick presentation here. So I'm going to turn it back over to Catherine real quick.
Great, thank you, Joe. The first question most people have is, so I'll just cover this really quickly before I ask you the couple questions that have come in here, is if they will be able to receive a copy of this presentation. I know many people have had the chance to receive some good information here that they'd like to share internally. So yes, the presentation will be emailed to you following the end of this presentation. I will personally email that to you. So don't worry, if you've signed into this webinar, you will receive a copy of Joe's presentation. So let's move on to the questions that we have, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a look at the chat panel. So if we can go ahead and look at the chat panel, we'll just see these couple questions that have come in here. The first question is, what would you say, Joe, are the top 2 tips to start with on creating a safer supply chain?
Perfect. I think one of the first tips that I would say would be definitely evaluate your needs. What exactly is the end goal? What are you looking to gather and capture? And how is that going to best suit your needs? How are you going to utilize this information? And what's it actually going to provide for you? And then creating a system or creating a solution that's going to be, more importantly, helping out achieving that goal. And as you have this information, how are you actually utilizing that information? And I think another tip would be, once you've gathered this information, how is it verified? How is it reviewed? Is it just socked away in that filing cabinet, or is it actually helping out in that decision-making process? And is it, more importantly, updated annually? Is it updated, or is it just done once? So I think those are a couple tips that are going to really help out with the supply chain and creating a more safer supply chain.
Great, thank you. The other question I have here is, where else can I find additional information on creating a safe supply chain?
Sure. My information is there, located at the bottom in my email address. Go ahead and shoot me over an email. Let me know what exactly you're looking to gather or accomplish within creating more safe supply chain. I'd be more than happy to show you exactly what PICS can offer, even do a quick demo for you and showing kind of how the architecture of an account can gather this information, and we'll be in charge of verifying all those contractors and managing those suppliers as well.
Great, thank you. Joe, I want to thank you for your opportunity here to share your tips and tricks on creating a safer supply chain. Again, anyone here who might have additional questions, please feel free to send those directly to Joe. You see his email address listed up there. And again, within probably an hour or two, I will have sent a copy of the presentation. So if you have additional questions after receiving that presentation, Joe's contact information will be in that copy of the presentation as well. We want to thank you all again for joining us on this webinar, and then remind you that our next webinar on eliminating contractor complacency will be held on April 16th. So please feel free to take a peek into your email in the coming weeks to be able to receive an invitation to that webinar as well. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.